not for publication or video, but the Notre Dame game on February the 4th. A lot of you are asking what time that game is. We don't know what time that game is. We should know by the 21st, but we found out it won't be any earlier than 4 p.m. So for your planning purposes.
It'd be like football. Don't know what time you're playing till the morning up before. It's just sort of a little senseless, but I'm not making those decisions.
Either end. Florida State obviously has a lot of depth at the bottom right. What is it about their right that makes them particularly effective, other than just being long?
Well, they use it. It's effective for them defensively because they have good feet and then the length, so they bother your shot. They bother you getting to the passing lanes where you want the ball to go. They can stop it from going there. They use their length and athleticism and their brain, because I think they're a really intelligent team too. They figured out a way for them to play that's extremely important to them, and everybody's buying in, and it's really a fun team to watch. But their length is hard around the basket, trying to get second shot opportunities. It's hard trying to get off an open shot because they can close on you so much, and it's hard to get your offense rolling because they can get out and push you out, 3 feet, 4 feet, 8 feet farther out than you want to be.
How much more imposing is their length now that you guys won't have Tony?
Well, it's the length is still the same thing. It's just that we don't have one of the weapons, so that makes it more difficult. But some way, somehow, we still got to play because they're not going to let us cancel the game since Tony's not playing. But you got to just make sure that you're playing early. You can't just be thinking, oh, now I've got to come out and get the pass. You got to set your man up to be ready to get to that spot. And same thing on the defense end. You got to play defense early because of their length too.
So can we anticipate that we'll see a lot more of that small lineup again?
Well, I don't know that I would say I anticipate it, but it tends to be reasonable because we just have one less guy. And I'm not going in with saying, okay, we're going to play the small lineup. I'm going in playing that we're going to play Kennedy and Isaiah and Luke, and then if everybody's in foul trouble like we were the other night at Wake Forest, we'll have to make some other moves. But it's not our plan to go small right off the bat, no.
How important will that be to avoid foul trouble, especially with the game?
Well, it's really hard in this kind of game because there's going to be a lot of possessions, because we're going to run it up and down, and they want a fast pace. So it's more difficult this kind of game than it is somebody that, wants to control tempo a lot more because there's more possessions, which means more opportunities to score and rebound and shoot and miss, but also to get fouls.
Roy, they've had 3 different guys score over 20 and lead the team in the last 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of different guys contributing. How difficult is it with that type of depth to
Mm-hmm.
compare?
Well, you guys have heard me say for 14 years that's the way I like to have teams because you just can't focus on one guy. And I think you have to look at Bacon first, because he's the leading scorer. He's 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, whatever it is in the league. You have to look at him first. But, for us, Raytan May scores 60 every time he plays us, so we have to be aware of him too. But I think it is something that makes just one of the things that, they have 3 guys in double figures, and Dwayne is the first one. But and Isaac, he's even scoring more than Xavier is. But I think that is the most difficult kind of team to guard.
Their shooting percentage, I think they're at 51%, but they play at a pretty good clip,
Mm-hmm.
speed-wise. I mean, what is that? Is that about shot selection as much as anything? That you play fast and you're efficient?
Well, if you play faster, you've also got a better chance of playing offense before the other team gets back. That probably has more to do with the shooting percentage. And and then they're having the guys who can shoot it best, they shoot it most. The guys who shoot it least effectively don't shoot it as much. So it's a whole team thing with them, but they do get really good shots. But again, the fast pace, you're not giving the other team's defense a chance to get set.
Coach Hamilton's had some pretty good defensive teams in the past. How does this team stack up with some of these other really defensive teams?
I think you'd have to ask him that. I mean, he went 2 or 3 years leading the ACC in defensive field goal percentage and in the top 1, 2, or 3 in the country. But this team, how many block shots do they have? 87 blocks, to our 62, and we've played one more game. Their length is something that you've got to be concerned about. There's no question about that. But I think they're just a complete basketball team. They can shoot the ball from 3. Well, they're shooting 37.4. We're both shooting 37.4. Am I looking at the same thing? Yeah, we're shooting 37.4. They're shooting 37.4 from three. So, again, it goes back. Those guys who are the best shooters are the ones who are shooting the most of them.
Coach, how critical is it to win these home games? And is it harder than ever before for teams to win on the road?
I think it makes a difference where you play. It's critical to try to win. You know, I've always felt like my team needed to understand we can win on the road. You got to play well. And you shouldn't think that the crowd's going to help you win the home game, and if you play poorly, you'll still win. So I try not to get so focused on that part of it as opposed to getting the belief that let's play well. If we play well, we got a better chance of winning, whether it's here or there, anywhere, everywhere. But it's hard to win, period. I don't care where you are in this league.
How much have you gotten to talk with Tony just to see how he's doing physically?
Talked to him yesterday before practice, stood there, and he said he felt better, and we talked about how it happened and the whole bit. He was in good spirits after the game in the locker room, didn't remember too much of it, but, you know, it's just a fact he's not going to play tomorrow, and hopefully things will clear up quicker and quickly and all that and see what happens next.
What is the process for him? Like,
I have no idea. I really don't. They don't ask me or don't tell me when to play zone or man. I don't tell them when to, you know, take those guys up there and test them and blink their eyes or whatever the heck they do. I have no idea. Yeah, and I'm being sincere. When Doug tells me that he's cleared to practice, I'll say okay, and I'll practice him. When he says he's cleared to play in a game, I'll say okay. I mean, they always show me the X-rays. They always show me the MRIs. I can't tell one freaking thing from, so I tell them quit doing that. Just tell me when a guy can play. Have you guys looked at X-rays? MRIs are ridiculous. We see how much darker this is there than this over here.
How have you seen Kenny's defensive game change since the beginning of the season?
How does Kenny or Kennedy's? Kenny's. I don't think his defensive game has changed. I said in the preseason I thought he's had a chance and may already be our most effective defender on the perimeter. I think he's getting more comfortable and perhaps making decisions a little quicker because of the experience. But he has a chance to be really a good defensive player.
And what's the biggest difference between him and Nate when it comes to the defensive side of the ball?
You know, it's strange. Kenny's bigger, quicker, you know, and those kind of things. Nate follows a party line, you know, tries to do the right thing all the time, but may not be able to make a block like Kenny's chased down a couple of people and made a block. Kenny will take a few more charges. Nate's more a system defensive player as opposed to just a natural, instinctive defender who can bother some people.
2 games in, what do you like that you've seen from Theo, and can you anticipate about how long it's going to take where he's going to be full game?
No, you know, and I think I even said it last week. I've had guys who came out and bang, just started scoring immediately, and I've had guys that took a while. Theo has come back being Theo. I mean, he's had some really good stats for 2 games with everything except shooting the ball in the basket. You know, he's 0 for 7, but averaging 4 rebounds a game, got 7 assists in 2 games. So he's doing those kind of things. But, yeah, I'd like for him to make some shots also. But I think it changes from one individual to the next when they really get more comfortable. I don't want him pressing, thinking he's got to score to help us. I want him to continue being a basketball player, and scoring is part of that, but it's not the only thing.
after looking at the fouls called the other night against your guys, is that easy to prevent? Or was that?
It's not easy to prevent, but you can stop. I mean, get down in the stance and slide your feet instead of reaching every time. That was a huge portion of our fouls were reach fouls. And just being alert defensively, being alert that they're getting ready to attack you. You know, it's like I said earlier, it's play defense early. You know, before the guy's got the ball, now he's trying to do something to you. Play defense early, and it'll be a little bit better, a little bit easier for you.
You expressed concern with the ball screen defense after the game Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Curious, does Leonard rely on that heavily in his offense?
You know, I don't think so. I think, gosh, I may be saying something off the wall here because I haven't seen everybody play. The teams that I have seen play, Virginia, because I just finished watching Florida State-Virginia game, they don't set a ton of ball screens. We don't set a ton of ball screens. Florida State doesn't set a ton of ball screens. If they watched our defense the other night, they may put in 73 more plays since then and have a ton of them tomorrow. But what we did is we had one crucial error that kept making the same mistake, and then the other thing is as I said earlier, we're just sort of passive. They're attacking. And if you're going to attack me, I can't be a passive defender. I've got to be ready. And I think that they were just so much more aggressive than we were. And at that point, it's a 19-point game early in the second half, and they needed to try something different. And Danny got them to be much more aggressive, and they really did a nice job of it.
Roy, how do you go about evaluating the defensive player of the game? Is that based on some kind of point system, game to game, based on what a guy does on various possessions? Or how do you...
We grade every possession, every player, after every game. Every possession on the defensive end of the floor. Did you do what you were supposed to do? Did you fail to do what you were supposed to do? Did you do something even extra over what you were supposed to do? And we come out with a ratio there. If you don't cross the lane and the guy gets a layup, that's a bad defense. If you cross the lane and take a charge, that's 2 good defensive plays. So you get 2 there, but it's a ratio. And we didn't have very many good grades after the Wake Forest game, whereas the North Carolina State game, we had a bunch of good grades.
Right, obviously, Tony got it off of the Wake game. Only 6 minutes, so I guess is that a reflection of maybe how poorly he thought he played?
Not necessarily if he's, and I can't remember what he was, but if he was 5-0, okay, that might be better than 20-5. Okay, because again, it's a ratio. So 5-0, I don't know what everybody else's was. So I won't say I'd say that. I'd just say his ratio was much better in that game. One game, I think that's the 3rd time he's won the Defensive Player Award. I think it's a freshman. Yeah, 4th. Okay. But no, it's, you got to play a little bit. But, my guess is if he was 5-0 and somebody else was 25-4, his ratio is a lot better, but I'd take the 25-4. And so it's just not strictly just on ratio. I make that decision all the time.
Are you encouraged after the Wake Forest game? It seemed like the second half defensively was more out of character recently. The potential is there because you had 2 really good stretches against NC State and in the first half against Wake.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a way to look at it, but, it always scares you. You don't want it to show up too much. It's like a bad rash. You don't want it to keep coming. You'd like to get rid of it, never see it, but first time I've ever compared defense to a bad rash. But we were really bad defensively, and you got to give them credit. Their offense had a lot to do with that, how aggressive they were, but we were really bad defensively. And we've been at times this year, against Wisconsin, we were really good defensively. Against Oklahoma State, we were really good defensively. Against Kentucky, they scored 103. I don't think we were quite as good defensively there, but second half was sort of like Hawaii, Georgia Tech, which I think all 3 of those would be our 3 worst defensive games.
Was it more difficult to play good defense in a low possession game or a really high possession game?
I don't know. I think if it's me, I think it'd be just as easy in a high possession game because that's the way I like to play. If it's a guy that likes a low possession game and doesn't like to run up and down the court, it might be easier for him in a low possession game. But you still got to do it. It makes no difference whether it's 10 possessions or 100. We talk all the time, let's just get 1 stop, and then let's see what kind of shot we can get. All right, let's get 1 more stop. So we break it down to even each individual possession. But fatigue factor is always in there the more possessions you play. But we practice that way, so it shouldn't be as big a factor for us as it would be if somebody comes in and plays 60 possession games and all of a sudden now they got to play 100 possession games. I think that'd be the change there would be a bigger factor for them.
I'm just curious, who's the best defensive player you coached at Carolina?
Oh, best defensive player I've coached at North Carolina. Jackie Manuel was sensational. I only had Jackie for 2 years. Marcus Page was off the charts, could guard the ball, did a job away from the ball. Tyler Zeller was always where he was supposed to be. He was a big guy who could block shots and made good decisions, but also taking charges. John Henson was the best shot blocker I've ever coached. Tyler Hansbrough could really slide his feet for a big guy, so we never really worried about a screen on the ball. We could switch that. JP had great instincts to steal the ball and sometimes gambled too much, but he had great instincts to come up with the ball. Ty Lawson was really hard to get by. He had great feet, so I've had a lot of good ones. But John Henson was the best shot blocker. Jackie Manuel was the best chasing people around screens. Marcus was the most complete. Those 3 would be the first 3. Can you think of anybody I'm losing? Okay.
word to Ty that you mentioned his defense.
Yeah, no, Ty, guy had 8 steals in national championship game. No bigger